Go Miriam! This is excellent. This is great. Where are you holding? You're on the 6th homework? Okay, so there's definitely a few points to give over right now, but you have become a talented photographer. You really have. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, so this is our run picture using AI Servo, and you've done very well. You're using a very basic camera. This is an entry-level Rebel camera. So I'm still quite amazed at how good these cameras are nowadays. Your camera's coped with it very well. If we look here, all these pictures are basically taken in the same second. This is 5:19 and 10 seconds and 10 seconds still. So you're obviously just holding down the shutter. Great. Don't forget, these pictures are super important for the slideshows that I recommend that are a key to building your photography business. These images are so full of energy. There is no shoot, for sure. There is no shoot that I take where I don't use this technique, this AI Servo technique of having my subjects running towards me and tracking them focus-wise. You get just fantastic pictures over and over and over again. And if you've really worked out the concept of engineering the odds, if you just take 1 or 2 pictures, you don't get the shot. But if you take, or generally you don't get the shot, if you take, say, between, say, 6 and 10 pictures of the kid running towards you, you should for sure nail an awesome image, which means pin sharp, good composition, but you can crop anyway. A great expression with good background, etc. Good separation between subject and background. You're basically setting yourself up for success. The key is I think three of the most important words in photography: engineering the odds. Okay, just remember those words: engineering the odds. There's nothing embarrassing about taking loads of pictures, and I would rather take 20 pictures of a group of 3 people and get 5 awesome shots and then erase the rest, as opposed to take 3 pictures and get no shots that are awesome or perfect. Okay, so remember, engineering the odds, it applies to all pictures, especially this kind of image when they're running towards you. You can't work out that perfect nanosecond where the hair's flying and the kid's in that. It's impossible. So by taking a lot of pictures, click, using AI Servo, which means you'll get your focus covered, Bezrat Hashem, then you can for sure, according to this world of nature, which runs by odds, you can for sure nail it. Okay, probabilities maybe. Best in RAW, this is an excellent example of best in RAW, in that it could even be that it's a little too much. I'm going to open it right away in Lightroom. Let's have a look. I'm going to open it right away in Lightroom, as right away as my Lightroom allows me to open it. I had a friend of mine one time describe his computer as like an old sick man, and I said to her, I describe my computer as like an athlete in his prime who goes through bouts of depression. Anyway, so look, we're now in Lightroom. So you've understood what we were speaking about having a big differentiation between the highlights here and the shadows over here. However, I think the highlights are too much. We can see the sun poking through the trees. Let's see. By drop, I know obviously the everything else went bad, but this is just too. It just can't really handle it. It's too much. It's just too much. So it's funny because in this we can open up the shadows a bit, and then we can add clarity just to bang it out, as they say. And you've got a nice picture. You have a nice picture, especially with the greens in the greens in the background. But if you're thinking of getting blue in the sky, yeah, physics does not allow for that in 2018. You would need to use a flash. I know we haven't spoken about flash at all, but all flash would do on a very, very simple level is you would be raising the levels of light on this little boy here. So he would be getting brighter and brighter and brighter, which means you would be dropping the exposure down lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, cutting out more and more light, until you'd see in the background, you'd end up with some color in the sky. So you've understood the concept perfectly. Excellent. But you chose an example that was so good that it's actually beyond raw. It's really beyond raw, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay. Next picture, no need for raw, and this is a great example. You're dropped underexposed, but that's not really a big deal at all. You've also just missed the you just missed the focus, but more than just missing the focus is at 1/200th of a second, you were not dead still. Okay, I know that I spoke in the class that at 200th of a second you can stop being conscious, but I don't think that's absolutely true. You can be less conscious, but you still, at 200th of a second, you should still be holding your camera as still as possible. Refer back to that class. It gives you the way of holding your camera steady. The steady stance is holding the camera underneath, supporting it underneath the camera, pushing your arm into your chest as hard as you can, pushing the camera against your face as hard as you can, spreading your legs slightly so that you've got a solid base of your body. And then with the breathing, at the point where you're about to expel the air, just before you expel the air, if you take the picture at the stillest, it's very difficult to do that. You won't need to be that conscious, but the more conscious you are, the better. Once you get to like 500 640th of a second, 640 1/640th of a second, you can really stop thinking about it. But you can just see here how at 200th of a second you weren't quite steady and you paid the price. In regards to the actual image, I think that the actual composition would be much better if we actually went by the rule of thirds. I'm going to just quickly show you what I'm referring to. In regards to the actual homework, the concept of no need for raw, this is a great example. The point is that you have a very slight difference in the dynamic range, is a technical term for it, meaning that the difference between the highlights and the shadows is quite subtle. So we have the shadows over here, and then the highlights, really we don't hit white, even close to white. So it's great. It's a great example of that. Just wanted to show you in regards to composition what we could do a little bit better. Just get my ugly face out of the way. 1 second. Zoom out. Okay. I would be doing we're in Photoshop right now. So I would be doing something like this, just to show you how this works. The rule of thirds, it's a perfect example. Cropping in here, and then it could be I've done a little much. Let's see. Control T allows me to. There should be a little bit more room at the bottom. Let's just 1 second. Might as well do it. One of my mottos goes, if you're going to do it, if it's worth doing, do it in style. So this is going to give us the perfect comment. That's a teeny bit too much. 1 second. Down a teeny bit. There we go. And I'm just going to stretch this a little bit at the bottom here. Not doing it particularly. 1 second. Okay, so just show you compositionally what we went from. Look at the difference. Okay, so look, perfectly demonstrated the actual homework. No need in raw. Tighten up on the composition and be careful with your shutter speed. Okay, let's keep going. Now we are into the photo shoot. Okay, so one of the rules that isn't being applied to here isn't being I'm going to get into the positive parts of this image in a moment, but one of the rules that you are not adhering to here is the background should be comparable exposure, different color. Do you learn about that in class 6? 1 second. Is it class 7? 1 moment. So you're going to learn about that in the next class. But it's a big rule that the background should be of a comparable exposure, different color. this is not a comparable exposure. So this white area here in the image sucks out a huge amount of energy from the picture. A lot of energy is lost through this big white empty space. Now, getting into the good parts of this image, stats wise, let me ask you a question. Good, bad, or perfect? 800, 2.5, 200 a second. Good, bad, or perfect? Perfect. Excellent, excellent stats. You missed the focus. There's a couple of things. I think number one, you need to clean your lens. I think it's a bit foggy, if I'm not mistaken. You focused on him, which was not the right thing to do. You should definitely have been focusing on the baby here. Okay, I love this movement inward. Sorry, and this movement inward. Okay, that's great. We're constantly moving to the baby. What I would be doing in a picture like this, though, is I would probably be cropping in something like this. Cropping in something like this to really make use of the baby. The fact that he's not pin sharp loses a huge amount from the image. And also this line here, although your eye, this is the line your eye is running with, there is a scraping. Although we've said that we've got this movement inwards, which is for sure true, we have also a circle that goes like this. You hear that? It's just slight. It's not a bang, it's a scrape. Okay, your eye doesn't bang into the side of the canvas, but your eye scrapes along the edge. That is not good. That should be lifted up a little bit higher. Like we said, like I've said to hundreds and hundreds of people, are we allowed to cut off hands and feet? Yes. Are we allowed to break lines and shapes? No. Okay, so you're not really breaking the line and shape, but the line is coming too close to the edge of the canvas, and that's creating that kind of feeling there. Okay, beautiful, beautiful little girl. This hair, that is your fault. You have to be. You are held culpable as a professional photographer. Even if you say, well, it wasn't me, it was the wind. That is not how it goes. That is your issue. Stats, good, bad, or perfect. The stats are perfect, absolutely perfect. But it's to look how fast the ISO is, and look how bad the digital noise is, which isn't that bad. But you're right. What's the other option? You can't open your aperture anymore, and if you wanna open your shutter speed longer to go from a 200th of a second lower. So I would rather have a little bit of digital noise in my picture than some camera shake. For sure. So those stats are absolutely perfect. The problem is you're at 8. Is that 8 p.m.? Wow, that is the wrong time to be taking pictures. That's the problem. Okay, so you got the right stats, wrong time. This as well here. We need more room at the bottom of the shot. This is when, I don't know why it is, but literally everybody does this without exception. When people start getting conscious about cropping in close, they always crop off too much at the bottom and leave too much space at the top. There's too much. We do not need all of this room up here. And over here, we have a crash with the side of the canvas. Okay? Doesn't work. She's nicely posed. She really is nicely posed, and it's a cute shot. But like I said, compositionally, the problem is there's too much room here, not enough room here. This area is dead. We do not need this area here. We could crop in a little bit closer. That would balance up the image a little bit more. This hair, I don't know if I just mentioned that already, but this hair as well takes away from the picture. Let's keep moving. Okay, you are overexposed here. You are 438. So, okay, it's very bright. Now, this is a very important thing to know. This image is overexposed. Again, you are not adhering to the rule that I think you haven't learned yet about background being similar exposure, different color. Right now here, we do not have a similar exposure in our background. This background is overexposed. Okay, these kids here are flat on. Change that. They should be moving inwards. Okay, so if he put his hand around mummy's back and brought this hand around onto his leg, maybe, might be a little too much, but that would save you from having to say, Shlomi, turn to me, bring your shoulder. That would automatically turn him. Also, if Daddy put his hand around her shoulder, that would automatically move her shoulder forward, and then we would end up with these lines. I can't stress how important these inward arrows are to family portraiture. I cannot stress it. Also, Daddy could be turned a little bit more. Okay, cross legs is not a good idea. What I would probably do is try and have Daddy with his legs similar to his wife, and if you put this hand here behind his wife, yeah, then that would also bind things together a little bit more. The issue in this picture, there's a few different issues, but the main issue is the staticness of the picture. There's nothing moving our eye around. So although you've created a nice shape, which you really have, we don't have any help coming around. So in summary, if this little girl put her two hands on Daddy's knee over here, that would turn her around. He could put his hand around here. And if this boy put his two hands over here, or one hand behind Mummy and one hand over here, that would bind that, and Mummy put her hand around him, that would bind that. The background is a bad choice of background, okay? So Miriam, just pick yourself up from here and reassess for the next picture, because this is a great learning picture, okay? You didn't nail it, but you nailed a bunch of things to learn from here, okay? So take it all to heart, because this is really, this is great. Okay, onward. Cute. Very cute. Okay, now, what do we think of these stats? Good, bad, or perfect? Stats are perfect, but you didn't nail the focus. The focus is a little bit further back, you see? See the focus? Focus is further back, so her eyes are not pinned sharp. That is annoying. That is annoying. That is. I remember when I was a kid, I went somewhere one time. It's this like beautiful forest, and we broke through these trees to this like gorgeous waterfall and stuff, and there was like trash everywhere, and I just heard in the back of my head, wah, wah, wah. And that's what happens here. That's what happens when you do not nail the focus. You have somebody in the back behind you with like a trombone going wah, wah, wah. Unlucky. All you can do is just get back and like get back on the bike. Engineering the odds, technically, in my opinion, is most connected to focus. Okay, the cameras, especially on the entry-level cameras, even so on the professional cameras, the cameras aren't 100% perfect with their focusing. There's so many different things that can change stuff, whatever. So you need to engineer the odds focus-wise. I would probably be taking about 12 pictures of this exact picture to make sure that I absolutely nailed the focus. Absolutely, maybe a few less, but on your camera, I would be taking definitely at least 10 to 15. My camera probably between 5 and 8. One other slight point is just to crop off a little bit more from the top as well. Remember, the eye line should always be above center, okay, for a balanced image. This is a beautiful picture. This really is a beautiful picture. Okay, stats. 200 ISO, 1.8 at 1,000th of a second. Good, bad, or perfect? Perfect. Excellent. Excellent. Perfect. I would be cropping. See, the thing is, his scissors is going to cause a slight issue, but I would be cropping something a little bit more like that, and I would have probably left more room in regards to this picture, maybe a little bit less. Remember, stick with the thirds. You really can't go wrong with the thirds. Stick with the thirds. This really is beautiful. The background is excellent. We've got similar, comparable exposure, different color. We're adhering to the rules of depth of field, as in you're not zoomed in all the way because you have a fixed lens, but you are in your aperture is the widest, 1.8. You're in close. Your subject's far from the background, so you've got this gorgeous, like creamy pastel background with these bokeh balls as well, which is as good as your lens gets. Remember, you're dealing with a lens that's worth about $100. It is the cheapest lens you can buy, so this kind of photography is excellent. Focus wise, you didn't nail it 100. I think you did. I think the issue is your lens is dirty. I think your lens is dirty. This is really good quality photography. This really is. We could turn this, we could push this much further in Lightroom, which we might do, but this is excellent. Okay, again, another shot. Your lens is for sure dirty. for sure, no question. Okay, I would give a little bit more room here because you're really using mummy and daddy contextually, framing them contextually. There's too much, you don't need this much over here, and you need a little bit more over here. Okay, the softness is pretty much, I'm pretty certain it is due to dirt on your lens. Okay, stats for this picture, you could still be at 1.5, 1.8 to be honest. You didn't really need to go 2.5, but you're seeing good. You've really understood the concept of the stats here. This is great. Let's take this picture into Lightroom. Let's just save it in Picasa and now open it in Lightroom. Okay, so I want to bring our attention more to our little boy. So I'm going to basically try and let's do it with an auto mask. Let's just undo that. Okay, so I want to really, don't worry, we're not going to be doing this as it looks. It's kind of funny. We can see now the mask is here. I do not want to be changing my exposure. I want to be adding some clarity. So now just looking at the difference, see there, we've just pulled him out a little bit further from the background. Now I'm going to do more slight, very slight, this time the opposite way. I'm going to raise the exposure around him just a little bit. Okay, I'm using my the auto mask. See, that didn't work because that's actually a darker area. But really, the key was around his face here. I'm going to get rid of that. Get to erase. No, bring that out. Okay, so we've just very subtly. Would I actually do this to a picture? I wouldn't do this, but I'm just showing you the way that it goes. I'm also going to put in a very, very slight vignette using my radial tool, my radial filter. I'm going to drop down the exposure slightly, and I'm going to drop down the clarity. And you're going, sure, what are you doing? Don't ruin my picture. And then we go click, and ching. And we're done. Let's have a look now. So we went from here to here, just very slight, but it just adds that, just gives it that edge. Remember, very important part of Photoshop, of Lightroom, of post-editing is determining what is my subject. And once you've determined what is your subject, now we need to emphasize our subject. And we can emphasize our subject in two ways. Number one is by emphasizing our subject, and number two is by de-emphasizing everything else. Another part of emphasis of subject is the separation between subject and background, which is really what we focused on doing over here. All in all, this is really a great shot. Went from here, which is a little bit flat, to just see, it's just, that's really what adds it just gives it that edge and has turned it into a really, really great shot. Okay, Miriam, this is excellent, really it is, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do for us next week. Okay, all the best.